Kalimera sas. That's about it. That's all the Greek that I know. I'm extremely honored and happy to be here and have this conversation with all of you, share a little bit of the ideas. And I'm even more happier that the TED event is the brand and the awareness is getting so positive because actually helped me to enter in the country. Yesterday, when I was passing through customs, the officer asked me, what brings you to Greece? And I said, I came to give a presentation. And he started, presentation about what? And I said, innovation. And they said, innovation about what? And I said, really? And a disruptive innovation. And then that was my bad, because the moment that I mentioned the word disrupt, something triggered, like, you're going to disturb who? No. Disrupt innovation at the TED conference. And then the moment that I said TED conference, TED conference, welcome to Athens. So, dear officer, if you are in the audience, thanks for letting me come. So, I'm glad to be the first and talking a little bit about innovation, disruptive innovation, some of the concepts really quick to kind of land the next things that I'll be talking about. We have invention, we have innovation, and we have disruptive innovation. So if invention is the discovery of a new process, a new product, a new technology, innovation is the ability to actually bring this invention to the market. So there's a strong connection between innovation and the ability of people consuming that innovation. So this is Thomas Edison, and it was a classical inventor/innovator. But then we have disruptive innovation, and there's several ways to describe it, but particularly in the technology industry, we tend to classify disruptive innovation as an innovation that it's so different that is either creating a new market or a new segment, or is bringing something so different and so unique and so valuable that is transforming the existing market, either by a totally different price model or a different technology, or simply because they are much more connected with what the audience really needs. And on technology, this is happening more and more often because the advances that we are seeing are exponential. And when we kind of double-click the word exponential, we see exponential graphicals going to hyperboles, etc. But it's quite hard to grasp. On our team, we have a saying that helps us to illustrate what exponential really is, which is if you make 10 steps linearly, you are walking 10 meters. If you are making 10 steps exponentially, we are reaching the moon. So everybody kind of knows the Moore law, that the computational power is doubling every 2 years. There's other kinds of laws that states that the bandwidth is doubling every 18 months. The need of storage is doubling every 18 months. And what is happening is that the amount of technologies and solutions and possibilities that are entering, there's no model. There's really no model to predict what's going to happen. There's very few models that can maintain a leadership of a particular product or segment. So it's almost like disruptive is the way in which we're going to see things moving forward. Another quick example is next week is the birthday of my son. It's his first birthday, and my family is all over the world, and I asked for my parents. There's a website, a startup, they just developed a way that you record a greeting, they put on a ship and send a postcard, right? So you open a postcard, my kid will hear his grandparents saying, parabéns para você, which is happy birthday to you in Portuguese. The ship that is inside this card costs 99 cents. How many of you were born and playing video games in the 80s, please? That is the same ship. That is exactly the same ship that we played video games with, 99 cents. So 20 years ago, 30 years ago, things are really moving fast on this. But what this has to do with me now and how disruptive innovation can be something useful for me and actually relevant in any kind of industry. I was trying to think in a sentence that could kind of capture, because of the 18 minutes that we have, the summary of the presentation. And it's really, this was the best of times, it was the worst of times. This is not a headline of economic newspaper. This is actually the Tale of Two Cities from Charles Dickens, and it couldn't be more current, right? I don't need to talk about the worst of times. Let's talk about the best of times, because this is really a reset in the economy, in a sense that we are seeing so many bad things happen, but also so many good things happen. And a classical example and proof of this is that if we get today the Fortune 500 companies, more than half of those companies were created in the middle of recessions. Like the current Fortune 500 companies that we have. And the reason why is because they emerged challenging the status quo. They emerged suggesting and producing something that was absolutely different than the zeitgeist and the way that people were doing business, because actually we're not doing so well. Do you need to be a big company to make the difference and be disruptive and participate on this part? Actually, no. So in the last 5 years in US, for instance, the net number of new jobs created came entirely from new companies, from young companies, from small companies. So the amount of jobs that currently are being generated are exactly from companies that are doing something new. Big companies, they hire, of course, but they also repurpose or fire or lose jobs. But the new jobs are actually, there's a myth that the security, job security would be in big companies or governments or banks. Not so in the last 10 years. This is another interesting graph that shows actually the total number of jobs generated in the last 50 years. And you can see the line of the total number of jobs fluctuating during recessions. The upper line is the jobs created by companies with less than 3 years. It's not volatile at all. So crisis or no crisis, the jobs generated by innovative companies, by young companies are there. So this is almost like an underlying message to our governments in some ways that, do you want to generate jobs? Foster innovation. Nurture entrepreneurism, because in the long run, this is what really keeps the line in the growth. And then we come to the part where, so let's disrupt, let's innovate. What is the recipe? What I need to do? What are the steps that I should take? And the reality is that there's no secret recipe. It's every country has a different mechanic, every niche of market has different variables. It's all about leveraging the strengths and identifying the gaps and addressing them. But there are some common ingredients across the companies that are really disrupting and are really doing some impact, both in number of jobs that they're creating or innovations in productivity that they're bringing to a vast market or a vast segment. The first one is what the technical term calls asymmetric attack. And basically this is just a fancy way to say think different. Think about your problem in a different way. Think about your customer in a different way. Think about in your team and in your company in a different way, right? So think about ways in which you can either improve or absolutely change. Once again, going to the definition, disruptive innovation is something that is changing an existing market or creating a new one. So the first thing is really to think different. That's easy to say. How can we do this? Several ways to do, but the one thing that I'm realizing and perceiving that is common across, it's embracing diversity. And diversity in the most broad sense possible. Different mental models, men and women, different culture, different backgrounds. Like you cannot think different if you don't have the mental capacity to it. So embrace ideas, bring things over. And especially in disruptive innovations, there's no such a thing as the eureka moment. It's always actually a combination of several eureka moments that brings together. I got the privilege to be part of a company that it's participating in the process of production of ethanol as an alternative fuel. And during this process, processing the sugar cane to ethanol, there's a byproduct that we call bagaço, which is a fibery thing. And when you treat this bagaço, there's a polymer that is a thick, oily substance, biodegradable. It's not pollutable, but people don't use this for nothing, right? So they either burn or throw in rivers. Let's park that for a second. We go for the Middle Eastern, specifically Saudi Arabia. One of the biggest challenges that they have are the sand dunes. And the reason is because the sand grains are not rounded at all. So they attach to each other and they start moving almost like a snake movement until they start creating the dunes, etc. They did everything that they could to stop those dunes entering the cities, the refineries. They build walls, they swipe them. They even spread crude oil that had some sort of effect, but it's crude oil. Bad for the nature, expensive, etc. What happens is that as part of the first team, there's an engineering that was analyzing the chemical properties of the crude oil, and when he saw the byproduct of the bagaço, he said, man, this could work. Today, they're stopping the sand dunes with trash, which was this byproduct. So currently, they are shipping what was trash in one country to what is gold in another country. So if that's not something disruptive, literally turning trash into gold, I don't know what could be. The second thing is the common thing. It's really to believe yourself, to have big dreams and believe in those big dreams. There will be several people telling you why you should not do something. Focus on the why you should do something. Focus on having big problems to solve, and the disruption will come. There's a lot of effort nowadays on things that are perceived as cool innovations, but the reality is that if you're disrupting something, you're going to be cool, doesn't matter what you do. The last year, the two companies that I found that were most interesting and generated the biggest disruptive impact, one is it's literally a garbage man, like who wants to be a garbage man nowadays? And the second one is not even, they call it a spin-off, but it's just a fancy name. It was actually a rejection from a plant, a manufacturer plant that produced paper films for instantaneous photo, a machine like Polaroids, right? Which is a doomed business. Nobody developed their films in paper anymore. The garbage guys, what they did, they created a smart trash bin that automatically separates the trash to what is recycled, what is compost, and send information to the truck routes, so they are optimizing the number of trucks in the streets, so they are literally saving 15% of the entire supply chain. How cool now it's to be a garbage man, right? And the film guys that any investor would say, man, this industry is doomed. What they did is that they transformed a paper that is full of chemical agents, but instead of having chemical agents to process a picture, you have chemical agents for blood exams. So what they did, they literally, it's almost like a business card that you pinch your finger, you put one drop of blood, and gives you back 22 kinds of blood exams. It's almost the same technology. Imagine the power that this has to treat cholera, AIDS, prenatal in urban areas. They are lining up with investors now. So again, think differently, think big. Let's try to focus on big problems, on old business models. There's so many new things coming up, but the old business models, they need help. And the technology is there to in some ways help. So it's a matter of also to choose and fight for those big problems. And the third one, I would say that it's no good news, which is risk it and tenacity, because the common ground here is failure. There's no such a thing as disruptive innovation without failure. So we need to be prepared to fail. Our relationship with failure needs to be different. I have Latino background, so I know we are, as Latinos, we are ashamed to fail. And this is not connected with disruptive innovation. Like, you need to bet, you need to change, you need to do all over again. I'm used to participate in VC board pitches where the person is asking for us for money to do innovation, and he introduced themselves like, no, this is my 7th startup, and I'm waiting for him to say the successes of the other startups, and then all the startups went, but this one is the one. And actually they are proud of it, because as you go the learning experience is actually a shortcut to success. We need to fail in order to get success. Walt Disney was fired in his first job because he was not considered creative enough. Thomas Edison, that we just showed, up to the moment that he created the lamp and stuff, it was 1,000 times that he failed. So our relationship with failure needs to change. Easy enough when you have a stable economy, because you have mechanisms that can catch you up again. On not so much stable economies, I think the education institutions has a great role to fill. Because while we are students, that's the moment that we need to fail, and fail fast. So we need to get to the right idea. How many of you ever had an idea that, man, this could be the next big thing, and we didn't do nothing because we were afraid to fail? What if we had this environment where we can actually try and fail and do all over again? So it's almost like innovation is everywhere. Big corporations also innovate. There's sustainable innovation, but it's almost like a chess game. We think about it, we think about it again, and then we move. While disruptive innovation should be more like poker. We throw the hands, and then we got the right hand, and we make mistakes, and we bet, and we risk it. And it's part of the process of losing some hands and getting a big, great, full innovation hand. So I'll leave with a thought really quick. On environments and economies and ecosystems where entrepreneurism is the rule and you have this cultural behavior, the number of new companies generated every year does not change. So in the US, for instance, we have 600,000 companies being created every single year. 580, 620, it doesn't change. So that means that in the end of this day, 1,600 companies, almost one company for each one of you, will be created in the end of the day. Out of the 600,000, we have 1,000 companies that are responsible for 1% of the entire GDP of the US. We are talking about $14.7 trillion, $150 billion. What is the number of our country? Suddenly this whole let's create disruptive companies becomes a number. What is the number of Greece? What is the number for Europe? What is the number for that we need to nurture, replicate it, and create it? And really, through disruptive innovation, change the economy that we have. So, wrapping up, 3 things: asymmetric attack, let's think differently, let's embrace diversity, and let's play more poker. Thank you very much, guys.